Well, it's good, guys. It's Decrypt. I went on my Instagram story and Discord and pretty much just asked you guys to give me questions because I'm sure there's a lot that you have, and it's better for me to answer them in a video so that way I can help everyone out. Because there's no such thing as a dumb question. I hate when people say, sorry if I sound dumb. Like, dude, the smartest people in the world ask questions and the dumbest act like they know it all. So there's no such thing as a dumb question. That, and you might have the same question as everyone else, you know? So those that speak up and ask are always in my favor, you know, because I will say there is a difference between how do I create a Robinhood account versus, hey, I created a Robinhood account, I'm trying to switch it over to a cash account like you said, but this came up and I have no idea what it is. Can I please have some help? Can I please have some help? Those people are more willing to help than, you know, people that are like, how do I create an account? What do I need an email? Like, no, you know. Whatever. Anyway, so let's just get straight into it. So we have They Love Riggs. He asked, what made you even initially try trading? That's actually a really good question. But whenever I was 14 years old in 8th grade, my family and we got into this pyramid scheme. We didn't know it was a pyramid scheme. At the time, we're stripping copper wire, picking up a Yuyo. Shout out all my Hispanics. Would go pick up trash, metal, whatever, scrap metal, and just go recycle it, right? Well, at this time, the pyramid scheme was called Gladiacoin. You could probably search it up and find it. It was around Dallas. And it was like Primerica, right? I think this is how they work. You just go sell people services like cheaper phone bills, whatever, this and that. And you get paid out. And then obviously the people that you recruit under you, you get money off of them. And the payouts were Bitcoin, right? But we had no idea what Bitcoin was. This was 2017. Early 2017, my brother goes to school one day. We're still convicted. He sells his car, buys more Bitcoin. We had like 16 Bitcoins collectively as a family. I think I had like 2 somehow. Anyways, later that year, my brother goes to school one day. His teacher tells us it's a scam, Gladiacoin. We're like, oh crap. So we just sell all the Bitcoin, collect our cash. And later that year, Bitcoin hit $20,000. We had each Bitcoin at like $800 a piece. So ever since then, we kind of just started studying the markets. And I know that's not the stock market, but leading up until 2020, 2021, that's when the halving period started. We already knew about it. So we had the bag in our hands at one point. We fumbled it. And then this time we caught a little bit of it. And ever since then, I'm like, yo, if you can make money in the markets, there's got to be a way to keep doing this, right? And then I found the stock market, which was always there. I always knew about it, but I didn't know that you could trade it with stock options. And that's what got me into it. That was 2020, 2021. Yeah, like early 2020, whenever I started trying to get into it. And then it wasn't until 2022. So 17, 2020, and then 19, I was 20, or it was 2022. That's how I started and when I started. How much risk were you using when you were making your first $100,000 a year? I was only using $5,000 in my account on Webull, which sounds ridiculous, but I also have screenshots of everything, so it's like you can see. But the biggest thing for me was learning news and learning which way the market was heading. So in 2022, when they started raising interest rates, I knew that the market was going to go lower, right? Because when you raise interest rates, it makes it harder for you to get loans, makes it harder for you to borrow money, makes it harder for you to spend money, right? So to fight inflation, they had to raise interest rates to stop people from spending money and let the poor people catch up. I know that sounds bad, but that's literally what it is, right? Understanding this logic, I knew exactly where the market was gonna go. All I didn't know was when, right? But there were certain stocks that had huge implied moves like Netflix, Meta, PayPal. These stocks would move 10, 15%, you know, on earnings, right? And I knew the market was gonna go lower. So when you combined the economy, monetary policy with news, because news brings volume, then that's where you make a lot of money. I think with $5,000, there was a Meta trade. I made around $25,000 on that stock. On Netflix, I ended up making close to $30,000. But yeah, that's how I made my first $100,000, just knowing news and knowing exactly where the market was going to go with monetary policy. Best way for someone who knows nothing about trading to become successful and profit? It's actually a good question, because if you're a complete beginner, like I said before, or I always say, I'm going to sound like a broken record in all my videos, because I feel like a lot of people will teach different information and it gets you all confused. But I'm a real day trader. I trade one system only. I'm not saying that there's only one way to trade. But the way I trade is the way I trade, so I'm not gonna change it even if someone else makes $100 on a different trade. But the best way to do it would to be, genuinely join a community and start learning the language. It's like learning Spanish if you don't know Spanish. But if you're in Mexico or you go to Puerto Rico, obviously you're gonna pick up on it a lot easier and a lot quicker than if you were just in your room studying Duolingo, right? Like you watching YouTube videos on trading. Join a community, stop being stubborn, find a mentor, someone that can actually teach you and that actually knows how to make money in the market, and learn from them, right? Because you're gonna have access to everything you need to know immediately. Instead of guessing what information is right, you have access to it immediately. And it's all about opportunity cost, but with time. How long is it gonna take you to learn versus, oh, I can have the information right now, right? So that would be the best way to learn as a beginner. Just get into it and start learning the language. D-Ray99 asked, does price always have to retrace to the fair value gap? And the answer is no, because the stronger you have to imagine a fair value gap being a displacement, right? First of all, it's buyers or sellers outweighing each other. So if you have a large displacement and price starts, say we break to the downside, right? We break that level, price starts retracing towards that fair value gap. If it's a very strong displacement where sellers are outweighing buyers, more orders are gonna get filled as buyers try to bring it back up, right? So more times than not, if it's a very strong fair value gap, it won't even touch the fair value gap. So what I do to combat that, because a lot of people wait for it to touch and they never even get to take the trade. What I do is I start adding a quarter of my position at a time, right? So if I'm in with $10,000 at the fair value gap, and that's my max risk, okay? I will enter with $1,000 and then $2,500, and then I'll slowly size up into my position until I'm in with $10,000. And if it ends up going your way before you're in with max risk, well, then you're sitting there like, dang, I wish I would have added more, right? But you're still making money. And now you're more inclined to hold the trade, be in it for longer, and genuinely make some profit, versus entering with $10,000 off the bat, not knowing if it could push up higher to the fair value gap. Because genuinely, we don't know. We're trading the market real time, but we have confluences that give us that confidence to take the trade. So this is going to help you combat that, and you will catch way more trades and end up making a lot more money. Yes, it might be less than what you expect, but you're still green on the day, and consistency over everything, right? We don't look for the home runs. We're literally fish under the sharks. Seek4P11 asked, should you target previous day lows and highs or go further back? So yes, you should, because you have to remember that every high and low are just buyers and sellers. So highs are where sellers are at, lows are where buyers are at, right? So if you're targeting those levels, you would expect price to start reversing there, right, relative to the trade you're taking. So if you're trading the upside and you're targeting highs, you're targeting those highs because that's where sellers stepped in at. So you would likely want to get out at around that area when you're day trading. Same thing with the lows. If you're trading the downside and you're targeting previous lows, that's where buyers stepped in at. So that's where you would likely start trimming your position. There's no such thing as holding my position until I hit a certain percentage. That's gambling, right? But if you know where the levels are at, you know where buyers or sellers are at, those are going to be your targets, and you know exactly when to enter and when to exit your trade. That's how you trade. All right, now we have some Discord questions. Don3536 asked, when did you make your first $10,000 and how did it make you feel? My first $10,000 was made in 2022 when it was off a singular trade. I can't remember if it was Meta or Netflix, but one of those trades was an earnings trade. Had a big implied move for earnings, and this is whenever they were raising interest rates, so I knew which way the market was going to go. It wasn't going to go any higher, right? Big sellers were stepping in because they want to buy at cheap prices, right? And then whenever they reversed it, October 2022, that's when it started going higher. Whatever. Anyways, Netflix, I put $5,000 into the trade and I ended up making $25,000, and that shit was crazy to me. It felt insane, but it also didn't even feel real. I still felt like I was getting lucky, but whenever it started happening more and more consistently, like, using monetary policy with news and volume, that's when it started to be like, oh crap, like it actually does work, right? But at the time, I don't really even feel like I was too excited, because when you make $25,000 in a day, you kind of average it out with every single other month, right? So it's like it didn't even feel like too crazy. I kind of felt like I made less than what I made, if that makes sense. Miguel 216510, what's up with all these numbers in y'all's name? Asked, when do you know you're ready to quit your 9-to-5 day trading? And genuinely, my advice is to never even quit your 9-to-5, right? Because you have to have a foundation. You're concrete. How the hell are you gonna build a house or build a structure of your life without the concrete, right? And my argument to this is because obviously you want freedom, right? But first you need financial freedom. Before you have time freedom and the ability to do whatever you want, wherever you want, you need financial freedom, right? In order to do that, most millionaires have 7 different incomes. How are you going to cut one off and then just try another one that, is going to become more stressful if you don't have consistent income? Day trading is supposed to make your life easier. So even if you're making $50 a day, $1,000 a month with day trading, you're still paying off a couple bills, or you might be relieving yourself of some stress that's going to help you out overall and keep you happier in life. Working at a 9-to-5, depending on where you work, like if you work a really crappy job, I understand, but I wouldn't say replace your job with a 9-to-5, because day trading is going to become even more stressful. Then you're going to be losing and you're going to be chasing your losses, and it's this big old hamster wheel that people go through because they think they can become rich off of day trading. But in reality, you have to use a set amount, start small, make small profits, and then over time you build that confidence and you start trading with more, you become more experienced, and that's exactly how it goes. So it's going to take some time. So you don't want to be out of a job for 2 or 3, 4 years when in that time you could have had an income and bought a house and still day traded, and now you're paying bills, but you're relieved because you're using day trading as an extra source of money and not your main income, right? Until it becomes your main income, which takes 2 years of tax returns, then maybe you can quit your job and you can do things with day trading. But until then, keep your 9-to-5, stay there, and make sure you're actually building your foundation and having concrete under your structure. Churro asked, would you recommend day trading or swing trading for a beginner? This is a good question because as you become more experienced in day trading, you can actually do both, right? So in option trading, you have time on your contracts. If I buy weekly contracts, say 1 to 2 2-day contracts, those are going to expire pretty quickly and they're going to get burnt out on theta, right? If you understand how they work. So those you would day trade, right? Swing trade, you add 2 to 3 weeks, a month on your contracts, and they move a little bit slower. It gives you more time to make decisions while you're in the trade, and then you have the option to swing and day trade. So if you go in profit, you target previous highs. So we break levels to the upside with the fair value gap, we retrace, and then I add 10 contracts at a $10,000 risk at the fair value gap, and I just target previous highs, right? Whenever I'm in profit, I can sell a majority of my position and leave the other 2 contracts for a swing. So I day traded and I'm swinging at the same time. So you can do both, right? It's all about understanding what the swing is and what the day trade is, right? And separating the 2. But you can do both. So really, there is no like, oh, should I swing trade? It's all about how you're managing your own position and, securing profits and or swinging risk, right? When you're swinging, you want to be playing lower risk because it's higher leverage and risk to reward, right? When you're day trading, you have higher leverage but lower risk. 6 asked, when will you do futures? And everybody asks me this, when am I going to start trading futures? When am I going to start trading futures? And I have a prop firm account, right? I have a $100,000 prop firm account, but I never trade it. People ask me, why don't you trade it? And I just think it's pointless to trade a prop firm, right? Unless I have $500,000 in my trading account, which I don't. I trade with $25,000, right? If I have $500,000 and I can trade futures very, very comfortably, make a few $1,000s a day, then I'll do it. But it's not worth my time to take 2 weeks out of my life to try to pass a prop firm that's not even gonna secure me any money, and it has limitations to it. I have to pass a certain set of rules, change my rules completely in my day trading, and I have to take 2 weeks out of my life to pass the account and not even actually take a payout. That's just to pass the account. In 2 weeks, if you guys watched my previous video, I was able to make $10,000, right? So why would I go avoid making $10,000 to trade on a fucking test account, a paper account? It just doesn't make sense. This is why I despise prop firm traders, because a lot of them make their money off of the prop firm discount codes. You notice how when everybody has a red day or there's a huge historic day in the market like last Friday where the market just completely dumps, they're like, if you lost your account, here's a 25% code for the next account. But they never show you how to recover from your losses, right? This is why I despise those accounts. I will never trade futures unless it's on a cash account. Those who are trading prop firm accounts, you're scum. Like, you know you're a scumbag and you shouldn't be doing it. It's immoral. And this is coming from a guy that trades cash accounts. Like, I bought my house with day trading. You know, it's like I bought my cars with day trading. I had all of this before I ever even had a mentor or mentorship. You know, so it's like, I could talk my shit, but these prop firm traders, they're still living in leases and everything. So it's like, fuck them. Chell asked, what's something you picked up over time that gave you an edge? Like one of those things that most traders don't even notice until they've been in the game for a while. This is a freaking crazy question. This is like, this guy asked the best question possible. But like I was explaining earlier, when someone asked, how'd you feel making your first 10,000 or first 100,000? How'd you make your first 100,000, right? And this comes down to how I actually did it. So I was mentioning earlier that I knew that they're raising interest rates and that's what was going to bring the market lower, right? So if we look at the chart in 2022, and you could bring your chart up so that way, look, this is me speaking, not reading on a script. I'm literally just reading the quick question, right? Pull up your chart of SPY or SPX, okay? Early 2022, when they started announcing that they're going to raise interest rates, every FOMC, look at what the market did. When it makes it harder for you to spend money, what does inflation do first of all, right? Inflation is going to keep the market growing. And when there's a lot of money being printed, let me just break it down from the beginning actually. So in 2020, right, I'm about to teach you guys about monetary policy and how it controls the market. In 2020, the Federal Reserve printed 40%, don't quote me on that number, it might be a little bit different. I'm not reading off a script or ChatGPT. 40% of the total cash supply in the United States. In history, 40% of it was printed in 2020. I want you guys to understand that, okay? In 2021, do you guys remember when cars were selling on Facebook Marketplace more expensive than they were selling at the dealerships? That shit was crazy. Like, that was actually happening. There's a huge gap being created from the poor and the rich. To battle this inflation was super high. To battle this, and the reason it was so high is because people were spending money. Why? Because they printed so much money. Okay, but to battle this, they had to raise interest rates. What happens when you raise interest rates? Interest rates are there when you get a loan, buy a car, house, whatever, right? When you raise interest rates, it makes it harder for you to access money. Well, the banks, the billionaires, the wealthy guys, Elon Musk, they all understand this. This is why in 2022, Elon Musk stepped down as CEO. Jeff Bezos stepped down as CEO. They sold a bunch of stock. They wanted to be in cash because they knew the market was going to go lower. So when I started seeing this, what did I do? I started using news as volume. Every time there's news, that would move the market, right? But I knew where the market was going. It wasn't going to go any higher, especially when they were raising interest rates. Now look at the chart that I told you to pull up, SPY 2022. You can see when it starts going lower. Whenever they announced that they were no longer raising interest rates in November, right? Or I'm sorry, October, and it was effective November, early November, November 1st or 3rd, one of those days, right? Okay. Where was the bottom of the market? It was in October of 2022. Okay. Whenever I started noticing this and realizing this, obviously I noticed it early 2022, but whenever I saw it happen real time throughout an entire market cycle, this was my second time seeing a market cycle through 2019, 2020 crash, back up to 2022 recession, and then back up, right? This is what allowed me to make so much money in 2023 and 2024 because I had so much confidence in the upside. And then I did the same thing in 2024 with Nvidia earnings, Netflix earnings, Meta earnings, because they all had huge implied moves with news. And because we weren't raising interest rates anymore, that was the highest they were going to go. I knew the market was going to go higher. This was the edge that gave me the most confidence and what took me probably the longest to learn and understand, because you have to see several market cycles. You know, I could teach you this information now, but you still have to have the experience of seeing market cycles for you to even fully trust it, right? Because there's a lot of things that you're going to be taught, but I kind of got to be like, yo, like you just have to trust me, bro, because I know what the market's gonna do, but I don't know when. Until I started learning about news. News is just volume. Doesn't matter what the news is, it's when the news is. So once I learned this, that's when everything changed. That's when I started making a ton of money. That's when I went from 6 figures to like talking millions. But yo, shout out for the question, because that was great. I mean, every other question on here is kind of just goofy, so I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. Shout out to everybody that left me a question, and now I am out of here. Decrypt out. See ya.